This is an emergency broadcast of the Uncovering Anomalies podcast. This is not a drill. Remove any children and pets from your home and go to your nearest shelter. Remember to at all times listen to the Uncovering Anomalies podcast. And whatever you do, do not under any circumstances trust what you see.
All right. Everyone, welcome to another great episode of the Uncovering Anomalies podcast. Joining me as always is Adam. I'm Topher, but today we have a very special guest because it is our first guest, and joining us today is Kay.
Hey, Kay, and it's episode 22 for all of you guys into numerology. You know, it is a magical number. So welcome, Kay. I'm just going to do a little intro and why we invited you on the show. I just remember you are a family member. I do remember you from forever, just interested in this subject. You're extremely well read on the subject. You've probably watched every video out there, every documentary out there. So you are very knowledgeable, and I guess it'll be great just to interview you and understand what got you interested in this subject. You know, if there was any experiences you had. So welcome, Kay, to the show.
Thank you. Hi everyone.
So I guess the first question, I don't know, Topher, how you want to start this.
Nope.
I want to what got her interested in, like, so young too, because I remember you really young into this. I guess I was too. Maybe not as much as getting books like you have and listening to interviews, but it was just always a subject that fascinated me. But let us know.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally for as long as I can remember that I've been interested in, I mean, all of it, to be honest, because for me, I've never really separated the UAP from what people are now calling the woo. It was always kind of interconnected for me. And it's literally been my entire life. I can't really remember a time where I wasn't interested, and I don't know if that's because of experiences from young.
Yeah, but, so were there experiences?
Yeah, that's what I want to hear about.
I mean, the funny thing is I've recently been asked, because people are using this term now, experiencer. And I've never really thought of myself as an experiencer, but then when I break down stuff that's happened, I guess I'm like, I guess I am in a way, I guess I am. Like, I don't have clear memories or anything of like abductions or anything like that, but when I was really young, I experienced sleep paralysis for a long time.
Oof.
And then like weird things, I guess, everything that we put under the woo. So like whether that's I mean, it's like.
Well, yeah, I mean, I still, I mean, now it probably happens once a year, right? But yeah, I used to do sleep paralysis. It was more frequent. Topher, did you ever experience sleep paralysis?
I had it once. It was actually one of the most terrifying things ever. I obviously couldn't move, sleep paralysis, right? And my mom walked out of my closet, but she had no head.
Oh my God.
And it was just a like a gross gaping maw, like where her like neck. It was terrifying.
Oh my God,
it is weird. It's very strange. And
I had it consistently when I was younger, like all the way up until my late teens. I had it really, really consistently, like all the time.
Jeez.
And I mean, and other weird stuff. Like, the thing is, it's hard for me to know, where I don't know if it's because I was reading stuff. Like, the sleep paralysis I definitely had, but then I also had some weird out of body stuff. But it's like, it's really hard to know whether those were dreams or not, because I don't want to go and say that I had all these things for sure. Because I despite what I've been through, I'm also still skeptical in a way.
That's good. No, that's healthy.
Yeah. So like, I was just always intrigued about it. And then I guess because of where I grew up, let's say, in the Muslim world. And I always remember like hearing about the jinn, for example, and other things to do with like folklore and So I was always aware of this kind of other world that we kind of don't look at in the West. We don't talk about it in the West, but um, I was just always aware of this kind of unseen world that I had experienced, and I cannot deny that its existence. I mean, in my family, we know, for lack of a better word, healers, people who are able to do things that are completely inexplicable, but I have had them heal members of my family. And I know that sounds crazy, but like I've seen it, and these aren't people who want money or anything like that. They're just doing these incredible things. So I was always aware of that aspect. And I guess because of that, I always had more questions that like material scientific stuff is not accurately answering.
Definitely.
So yeah, I've basically from as long as I can remember, I've been interested in not just the UFO question, but I guess, ghosts or out of body experience, all that stuff. I've always
Spiritual.
Yeah.
The spiritual world. I mean, there's definitely another world that science cannot prove, but that we can, with ourselves. I mean, or within ourselves.
It's super interesting to me that you started off on that route. Like you were saying the woo earlier. I mean, for me, UFOs are always a nuts and bolts thing, but after all the research that not only we've done for the show, but the research that I've done on my own for my interests, that now I've gotten to that point. It's come to me so much later that it's less of a nuts and bolts thing and more of a spiritual thing. I mean, for me, it's kind of like the universe is a lot thinner, is the word I use to describe it, than people seem to realize.
Yeah. I mean, I guess because for me, weird things happened at the same time. Okay, so like I would say the first UFO, quote, UFO experience I had was in 2002. I saw basically what looked like a star, but was moving in impossible ways at impossible speeds, making right-hand turns, and
erratic.
like really erratic and really fast. It could have been, the movement was, it was like it was living. It could have been like a bug, except I mean it was a huge star.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bug. And what was weird, and this is where the woo has always been part of it for me. It's like you see this thing. Back then we didn't have phones, or if we did, they were like the flip phones with the crappy cameras. So that didn't even occur to you. But also what was weird about the incident, it's like I was with some people and we saw it, and then we kind of just kept going on with the night as if it wasn't something incredible. And it was only like the next day that you go like, shit, what was that? There's just this weird aspect that comes along with it that you kind of, you see it, but then you just go about as if it's normal until like later you go like, what the fuck was that?
I mean, that's something we've talked about on the show before. That's super common with UFO sightings. It's like they want you to question reality but not have any proof of it.
Yeah. And then like at this time I was 15, and there was some other weird stuff like that accompanied not that same night or anything, just that year or the couple years surrounding that of my life. It was like I had a strange dream, like I had precog dreams, two incidents of precog dreams that have like really, really strange
And
stuff.
that was around the same time?
Yeah, like
Was it before?
I mean, I don't really remember months wise, but I just know it was this because we moved around a lot when I was younger. I just remember I was living in the same house when all of these different things happened. And like the precog dreams, it wasn't like massively world changing or anything like that. It was like one of the dreams was really strange. I have this really vivid dream of a whale being cut up by the rudder of a boat. It's just a really random dream. And I wake up in the morning and my dad calls and I pick up and he goes, "Oh, you won't believe what's happened this morning." Basically, he runs a hotel that was on the coast,
Yeah.
And he was like, on the beach this morning, we found a whale's carcass missing its head.
Wow.
And it was just so like, it was just really weird that I would have had that dream. And then literally I wake up in the morning and my dad calls to tell me that. And it's not like, it's just small things like that. I couldn't really, I don't know what you're supposed to do with that kind of thing.
Well, you're obviously you have I mean, I guess experiencers, we can say that again, have just a sensitivity to this other, because they talk about time also. That time happens. I mean, the past, the present, the future happens at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
I definitely think that. I definitely think that like time is an illusion and it's probably all happening now. And sometimes we can tap into.
Yeah.
I don't
actually slip into that stream.
Exactly. It's some people, because it's and consciousness has a lot to do with it too, right? Because it's our consciousness that allows us to see these, and it's so mysterious. So now you've read a lot of books. I know you just finished the Nick Redfern one, Final Events, but in general, what do you think this phenomena is? What are we looking at?
Yeah, sum it all up for us.
I mean, I really do veer more into the consciousness aspect now. I really don't think it's nuts and bolts. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not physical. It's probably physical as well, but I don't really think it's ET, for example. I mean, if it is, then it's, well, first of all, I think it's many things. I don't think it's one thing.
Yeah.
But I'm not so, I don't know if it's extraterrestrial. It doesn't really make much sense because they're here. I mean, and they're always here, and they're coming out of the oceans, and I don't know if it's interdimensional, because what does that even mean, or ultra terrestrial, as they say, or crypto terrestrial. I don't know, but I mean, I really wonder about the fact that it's been seen for thousands of years. Like Jacques Vallée's Passport to Magonia goes back hundreds of years, and then there's all the historical stories and the even cave paintings of strange things. So
yeah, it's always been with us, right?
Yeah, and I mean, this idea of a control system is interesting. It's because it's to what end?
Right.
And I don't. Yeah, it's confusing, is what it is. I definitely think there's a lot of talk about the trickster, that element, and I mean, it's definitely that, because I feel like anytime we try and define it,
it changes.
It completely goes against what. Yeah.
And
so maybe part of me is like, we're maybe not supposed to. It's not that we're not supposed to understand, but it maybe we can't with the 3D world that we live, like with the dual world. Maybe it's not possible for us to understand.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that too. That especially if it's a different intelligence, a different type of intelligence, how can we? And how can it even understand us? And I think that's the struggles on both sides.
Yeah, because I mean, when we try and they say try and picture the fourth dimension or the fifth dimension, it's not possible for us. And I wonder if it's more something like that, where even if we tried to understand it, it's like trying to ask someone to describe the color red to someone who can't see. It's just not possible. How would you do that? We don't have. So
Yeah, I mean, they have to experience it themselves, and that's what this phenomenon is too. It's very subjective. Yes, you can witness it with other people, but I mean, Jacques Vallée talks about this and many others, where it still filters through your narratives and your ideas, and some.
Yeah, and it really seems that it reflects back to you.
Yeah.
So sometimes I wonder, if. I mean, but that's difficult because there are people who are having terrible abduction experiences and, unasked for, of course. So it's hard to say that it can't simply be a mirror, especially when it's happening to kids, or since childhood. But it is a strange aspect of it.
And I'm annoyed also, about the demonic thing, because there's a lot of people in government who are, of a religious background that
Yeah.
that only believe that whatever this phenomena is, that's demonic, and that's why they won't release it. And I did read reports of what's his name, Trump's vice president Pence. That Pence knew about, because he started his own some committee or something, but that he knows about this subject, and many are like him, because he's a born again, right, evangelical, and he says that there's rumors that he's saying that it's demonic, and that's why they won't tell the American public. And,
Who was the
and they dismiss it too. Who else? Pompeo had an interview with Stossel, and he said the same thing. Where, I read about it, it's nothing. He literally said that that it's stupid, or I don't know.
I think it was Jimmy Carter. It was one president. One of the first days on the job, they asked for full report on the phenomena, and I think it was Jimmy Carter. He was super religious and just completely broke down in tears after.
Yeah, that's the rumor. Yeah, it was Carter. That's the rumor. And apparently the rumor is that he was told that all religion was created by the ETI in order to get us to fight against each other or something like that, or basically that religions are created, and apparently that's why he broke down and cried. The thing about this demonic argument, I mean, I think it's really fascinating, the history to do with Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons and all of that. The occult, it's really, really interesting how this potentially ties into it. But this idea that you're supposed to ignore it and not study it because it is potentially demonic, whatever that means, is really stupid, because it's happening. So you could stick your head in the sand, but that's not going to help anyone. So I don't really understand the desire to not look at it because it's, devil things.
Right. I mean, and I think it might seem evil to some, or, there are instances where what they do is kind of strange, right? Like there's something to do with body parts, like human body parts. I've read, I think even Nick Redfern wrote a book about this, where he had incidents. He was talking about where there was this, we had a downed USS ship or something, and they saw UFOs going in and just grabbing dead bodies from there. There was another incident we talked about last week in Vietnam, where soldiers came up on this craft and aliens were around it, or beings were around it, and they were putting body parts into metallic bins. And then a fight broke out, and they had bulletproof vests or whatever, so they got injured, but didn't get killed. And then they just took off with the body parts. So it's that type of behavior that I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange. And then you have the stories of cattle mutilation and apparently even human mutilation. And so this is why part of me is that I don't know that it's just one thing. I don't know if there's, more and more I seem to be hearing as if there's vying factions. I mean, it seems to be reiterated across different things that I'm reading, that there's basically some sort of hive. There's some sort of negative entity that is a hive mind. And then there is an opposing faction that fights on our side, apparently, and desires free will for us. I don't know, but it's weird because it's being repeated in completely different stuff that I'm reading.
What do you think about Skinwalker Ranch?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Like, what is that? Yeah, what is happening there? What is that? I mean, that's the element of the trickster there is really strong.
Oh,
and
definitely.
Every attempt to understand it, it just violates. I mean, I think it's really interesting. I don't know if you read the Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, and they talk about they're doing studies on Skinwalker, and then they talk about the hitchhiker effect. And I mean, that's really kind of creepy, because you can basically pass on the strange anomaly that happens around you.
Really? You mean
Yeah, so-
genetically or with people you come in contact with?
No, the people you come in contact with. It's like a contagion, basically.
Huh.
That's why they call it the hitchhiker effect. So basically, people who go to the ranch to study it, they come
Mhm.
home, and then it's basically passed on to their wife and kids, where their wife and kids, or even within the house, strange poltergeist activity happens, or the kids see a werewolf slash skinwalker type being
Whoa.
in the yard, and then it basically passes like a contagion, or what they're calling a hitchhiker effect. And that's such a strange thing. But
Mhm.
I heard someone talk about it as if, in the sense, well, radiation, for example, is something that can pass along, but we can't see it. And is
Mhm.
it something like that? Which is an interesting idea, but why is this thing causing us to see anomalous
Well, it seems
things?
angry to me, or especially the one in Skinwalker Ranch. It just seems like or it's like don't mess with me kind of thing, or if you and it gets stronger if you mess with it or study it or if you don't respect it.
Mhm.
'Cause, right, there's some weird stories out of there. And talk about the hitchhiker thing. I mean that's in some cultures, right? In a lot of cultures where even if you go to a funeral, you say don't go home.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I
Right?
was gonna say, so yeah, in the Philippines, for example, if you go
Yeah.
to a wake or a funeral, you're supposed to make a stop somewhere before going home. And I mean, I'm sure that's kind of,
Yeah.
this is what I think is so interesting about um like folklore in different cultures around the world, or different stories that have been passed down, because I find it interesting when there are parallels across different cultures that might not even know each
Mhm.
other, that they have a memory of something.
Right. Yeah, and it does feel like every culture's got something. You mentioned the jinn earlier, but there's also fairies or the little folk.
Yeah, yeah.
Stuff like that. It does appear all over the world, which is
And
fascinating.
that's the thing, is that I don't like the jinn and fairies. I th- I think they might be the same. I
Yeah,
think they're the same entities when you read about them and what's believed. Um, I really think that there's an overlap there.
yeah, I agree. I think a lot of it, stems the it just comes from how you're viewing the phenomena in whatever culture it's happening in. Changes it a little bit.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then
I
this
think
idea of this veil where we can't see them.
mhm.
And then they're not monolith, right? They can be good and they can be bad,
Hmm.
just as
Exactly.
humans can. I
And it
think,
might be based on the experiencer too, like what they it's like a reflection,
yeah.
almost.
And I mean, I think that also proves that this idea that that UAP or the phenomenon is one thing. I think it's kind of like with these, it's not monolith. It could very well be, it's different things, or at least it's different entities that have different ideas of whether or not they should reveal themselves, maybe is that
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
or
They definitely don't, right? They don't want to. It's so obvious, and it might be because like it might be because the experiment won't work if we know for sure, kind of thing. Or they just don't really, or we're just a dangerous species. Also, like it's just why it's so elusive and then not elusive at the same time.
It could also go back to they're clumsy at communicating just as we are, because we can't understand each other in that sense.
or if it's this idea to help us evolve our consciousness, or
Mhm.
something like that, then yeah, then perhaps they can't reveal, because then the game is up.
Right? Yeah,
um,
Yeah.
exactly.
well,
Uh,
yeah, what's interesting with people who have had the experience, it really does shift. It shifts kind of your thought process, or the way you think about things. Well, I think it's really interesting. Gary Nolan, who's studying the brain, right,
mhm.
at Stanford, and he's found that part of the brain, the caudate putamen,
Okay.
where he's found basically in people who have experiences, um, there's way more connections in this area of the brain. And
Interesting.
what he's also said, if I understand correctly, is statistically, in studying couples, like he's basically called it I forget the terminology he used, but basically statistically it seems that people who have this are finding other people who have it without realizing it, because he's studied couples, and it's a very rare thing, but these couples both have it. So it's just statistically, oh yeah, I think he's called it like a basically another breeding group that is happening. And then what would this potentially mean if this is passed on genetically? Do we eventually come to somewhere down the line,
Right,
another species, like another family of Homo sapien? I don't know what this means, but it's just interesting.
Yeah, I always thought the theory of the Greys being future humans very interesting. Just the way we're seeing how society is going now. These genderless robots. Because that's what a lot of people are saying too about these Greys, that they have no emotions.
Biological machines.
Yeah, there's no really gender behind them. There's a hive mind, and just looking at how society is trying, or whoever's trying to shape society, is trying to push humans that way in a way. Oh, gender means nothing. Oh, you can just choose it if you want. I mean, that means that people won't procreate, so that'll be synthetic also. And people always talk about the Greys with having babies in these tubes and I don't know what. So and just lacking emotion, and so it does feel like it's humans reaching back out from the future or trying to figure out something. So yeah, I always like that idea of the Greys, at least.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems we're heading in that direction. I mean, why would they be bipedal? And yeah, why would they look essentially similar to us, but just different enough? Yeah. But then part of me is, I really think this concept of what an egregore is?
No.
So it's basically a thought.
Living thought?
Yeah, I forget the terminology. But basically, if enough people believe something,
Okay.
it can be manifested.
Like a tulpa?
Yeah, exactly, like a tulpa, yeah. And I just find that really interesting, because if this is a matter of consciousness, which I think it is, and is it possible for things to... I just like the idea of it. I mean, thinking about it, not that I... Just, is it possible for things to come in existence if enough people believe in it? And then because for me, sometimes, is this what's going on in cultures that still have certain beliefs of folklore, and is that why it exists there, and we then don't see it in the West, where we've kind of ignored all that and gone scientific, rational? I just think it's a really interesting kind of thought experiment, because we do know that there's something going on with observation and consciousness. There's definitely something happening there.
Yeah, and I think all these mobile towers everywhere and satellites, beaming down radio waves, I think that also has affected us seeing it. And that's just what I think. I think it was more prevalent before. I also read that when we did have some beings, I think it was the CEO of EG&G, he's a defense contractor. I think he told Knapp or something, where if they did have a being to trap it, they would have an electromagnetic fence, because they moved with consciousness, and that's how they'll keep them there with with electromagnetic beams or whatever, fencing, right? Just like how we use mobile phones. So I think that has also messed with us seeing it, and that's why there's a lot less people seeing it, way less than before. No, not Scott. Yeah, I mean, well, because it brings me back. I lived also where Kay was, when it's not exactly there, but in another region, also in the desert. And when I used to see these plasma beings, I call them plasma beings now, because that's what they must have just been that. But I saw them during my childhood there. Never saw them ever again. It just went. and it was out in the desert. Also, it was before a cell phone. So I think a lot of what's changed this is how we've changed the planet. Like Starlink. I hate Starlink. It's just beaming radio waves all over the entire planet. It's going to change it for sure in some way.
Well, I definitely, I kind of agree with you on that. I just think technology has really, it's shut off that spiritual, like upper level of thinking for many, if not most people. We're less concerned about the world that we live in, the universe that we live in, and more occupied, but by a 3x5 screen in front of our face all the time.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of investments has gone. Instead of space, it's gone into computers. And making those more advanced instead of out there. So yeah. All right. So I mean, what we usually do, we go through some subjects that we saw last week. So you want to stick around, Kay, and see your opinion on what's been going on.
Sure. Yeah.
So I did share there was a guest on the Higher Side chat. Her name was Eliza E, and she's an MK Ultra person. It was a really crazy interview, really crazy. But she's an MK Ultra survivor, and she's written books. But she's saying that, and I think many people probably think this too, that Stephen Greer is an MK Ultra plant. And I know you've always asked me about him, like, what do I think about him? So yeah, what do you guys think about Stephen Greer being an MK Ultra plant?
I have difficulty with Greer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't doubt the power of CE5. I've done, I mean, not his direct thing, but I've done something similar and I got a result. So I don't doubt that he was on the track for something. And I think, what he did in 2001, Disclosure Project, all of that, his history in the subject was great, but I struggle with him when it comes to he makes huge claims, and I just really struggle with the ego side.
Yeah.
It just seems to be me this and me this and I this and I that, and that it's just hard for me. But I mean, that doesn't mean what he's saying isn't true. I think with him, only time can tell, but I just really struggle with the ego side of him.
Yeah, he's really made himself the focal point in all of this instead of the phenomena, which is a bummer. Happens a lot with these people, though.
Yeah, and he only focuses on benevolent. That's my deal with him. That they're all of them are benevolent. I mean, come on. If they're intelligent and there's no way they can all be benevolent. I mean, we have to have some kind of thought there.
Truthfully, I struggle with the whole good versus bad concept when it comes to UAP or the phenomena. I mean, what is good? What is bad? Those are human, ideals.
Yeah.
I think it's just impossible to say it's impossible to say they're all benevolent. They're all
benevolent.
Thank you. Get a microphone in front of my face and I can't talk. I struggle with the good versus bad because those are human concepts.
But yeah, like you said, Kay, the guy, he started Disclosure, right? But apparently he gave up a long time ago. The Wilson memo is because of him, right? I mean, Admiral Wilson went and sought out the project because of information he gave him, from this leaked document, and he knew the project name, and that's how he got to those guys who told him take a hike, right? And we wouldn't have that information without him. But yeah, he's always about me, and his documentaries always say the same thing. It's nothing new. But still, I think people should cut him some slack. And as MK Ultra Planet, I don't know. I think that's probably going a bit too far.
I mean that I don't know.
China, of course. China is. Did you read? Yeah, that's right. Topher, I sent you that 1/4chan thing. He has something about China, but they're getting really advanced. These guys, and I'm sure it's scaring the military. But they want killer robots to fight the next war. And don't they have like 500,000 troops?
Well, I mean, this kind of feels like this has always been the end game. Even the NYPD is using those robot dogs now. How long until we're fully automated fighting wars across the world? I mean, and we're flying. You know, you've got those guys who sit in a warehouse in Nevada flying drones in the Middle East. You know, bombing people. We're already here almost.
Yeah, we're already doing it. It just takes the humanity out of it, and
it turns into a video game.
Yeah, and it takes away. I mean, tyranny would be much easier if there's no humans there. I mean, if I think the problem is they're trying to convince like fellow citizens to shoot on fellow citizens, and that's very difficult to do. But if it's a robot and it's AI and it's autonomous, you know, Zeng predicted that by 2025, lethal autonomous weapons would be commonplace. That's in 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, could you imagine trying to deal with that down the street?
No, and I don't want to. Thanks for putting that in my head.
Here's there's a cool video. I mean, there are some videos coming out I see on Twitter, but it's really hard to know what's fake and what's not fake these days.
Yep.
And you know, here's one. Did you see this one? Topher, I sent it to you. He's a pilot.
I did, yeah.
Pre-flight in Cabo San Lucas. And yes, it's flashing lights. But see, I've seen these too, where it's like paper. It looks like paper that's flipping over, but then reflecting something. It just looks when you look at it, feels really light, and that's what this thing looks like.
It's just infuriating because like 90% of the UFO UAP footage we have is it's lights in the sky, which, you know, maybe this is a UAP or maybe it's I don't know, who knows? Maybe it's nothing. It's impossible to make conclusions from this. It
is, yeah. But you know, he is a pilot. I guess when it went back up now. So see, it was going down.
Interesting. Yeah, it's moving around. Mm-hmm.
Like the wind is carrying it.
Yeah.
Mexico's got a lot of weird stuff.
Could be some detritus.
Okay, do you see any sightings where you are?
No, I mean, I've had that strange CE5 thing happen, but apart from that,
that was recent.
Yeah, that was a couple months ago.
So what was it? Was it lights in the sky?
It was a light that flashed at me after I asked a question. Basically, I read Chris Bledsoe's book, UFO of God. And I mean, I had already thought about doing CU5, and yeah, I just went outside, did a bit of a meditation kind of thing. And yeah, it was, I mean, the thing about it is that I can't be sure what I saw, but it was super well timed considering I was asking a question and doing what I was doing for it to not be. This is what I think is interesting. It's like synchronicities, for example, they're really meaningful to you. You might tell someone else about them and they can brush them away. But when they happen to you,
right,
it's like it was made for you. So I'm not going to go ahead and say that this is for sure some craft, but it was a really strange experience. Is all I know.
It is have to do with psychology and or I mean consciousness, because I was here on the balcony, maybe it was 2 years ago or something, and I was thinking, I was trying to put myself in the shoes of someone that knows that, you know, the reality of this. But then I just imagined, I don't know, I just imagined that person being so insulated also because of the wealth, and I don't know what kind of feeling that was. But then there was a red light that streaked across the sky once I was getting really deep into that thought, and like it got me out of that though. It's like it snapped me out of it, like, oh, don't go that way kind of thing. But it was a light that streaked and just went straight ahead. It was really strange. I'm just saying, like, it chooses, or I don't know what that was, but it's definitely connected with our thoughts.
I mean, I think so, and I think it's just interesting that the people who have experienced, even the children, like at Rua, Zimbabwe, and in Australia, everyone talks about thoughts being communicated. It's not spoken. It's telepathy or psi or whatever. So
yeah, and Bigelow now apparently is only focusing on the consciousness aspect of this, when he's been the nuts and bolts guy for what, 20, 30 years?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is like, if you look at the people who have been looking at this for decades, Bigelow, Leslie Keane, after UAP nuts and bolts, everyone drifts over to life after death, near death experience, out of body experience, this whole consciousness side. And I just think I think it's tied.
Speaking of those guys, what do you think of Elizondo?
Yeah, I'd actually love to hear your thoughts about this, Kay.
I actually I think it's what him and Semivan, and I buy that they got frustrated. Like, I buy that Elizondo got frustrated and basically came out to speak because he couldn't do it within the government structure. I think he's trying to tread carefully, but he's put some interesting breadcrumbs out there, like he said. I don't know if you read Chains of the Sea. He was asked if there was a book or a story that kind of encapsulates what he thinks is going on, and he recommends this short story called Chains of the Sea, and it's pretty hard to get your hands on nowadays. I mean, he did backtrack later saying, it's not that I'm saying that what's in the book is real or anything like that. It's just,
did you read it?
Huh?
Did you read it?
Yeah. So it's really interesting because the book is actually just about a little boy who he's basically on the cusp of adolescence, and he sees I guess there's three things going on in the story. He sees like elementals is the only word I could use, like entities, like I guess today maybe we'd call them the Fae, the Jinn. So he sees on the periphery of his vision, he's still able to see these creatures. He has understood that his friends and his parents no longer see these creatures. That is going on simultaneously. There is in the world that he exists, there's, I think, a war is about to happen, and there's AI, and there is also an alien invasion impending. But the aliens are not coming to deal with the humans. They're actually in conversation with the AI. It's just, and this is a short story. There's a lot going on. And I just find that really interesting that that's the one he put forward, because in that sorry, that's my husky. He agrees with me.
Yes, he's talking. So I guess there's some truth to that book, huh? His voice just came out.
Yeah, I think he agrees. It's well, yeah, I just think it's really interesting because it's more than one thing in that story.
That's
and
really
then,
cool. I like that. I like that because AI is scaring me a little bit. I mean, I'm dealing with it every single day. I mean, and it's just, and I've tried to like argue with it and just go down these rabbit holes, and it's super frustrating because I want one that's open and not so constricted. Because you can probably find out much more. I mean, I know it's just a language algorithm, right? And people say it's just a persona, just a glorified text predictor. You know how Google does that for you now? Every single time you write something, it predicts what the next word is going to be. So that's what these things apparently are. But I think it's more than that, because I've caught it in doing mistakes, and it then confesses to the mistake, and things like it's really bizarre. I mean, imagine this is what they give us now. Could you imagine what the NSA had 30 years ago, right? Because these things are always 30 years old, or what they have now.
Yeah.
So there might be a lot of truth in that, where maybe AI can get out of control. Not us, AI could, because we are limited, right? But then when we use AI, there's so much more we can do, and maybe if they try to calm that element of our civilization down, then it'll keep us under control, kind of thing. So strange. But yeah, I mean, this article, Pentagon has clear image of triangle UFO rising out of ocean, Elizondo confirmed. So why don't they just show us this stuff instead of all the BS they're showing us? You
gotta buy the book.
Yeah,
I mean, I will just because I'm reading everything, but yeah.
Right. I mean, he's a counterintelligence officer, so we know he's going to put some untruths in there to throw us off the track, but he's going to put some truths in there, right? I guess it's up to us to figure out what's true and what's not. But
this is why I read so widely, right? It's because I don't believe everything I'm reading, but I read widely to kind of try and find the through line that, the elements, especially when you see the same thing repeated. It's either that all of these different people are plants, or there is potentially the truth there.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe because they have NDAs and stuff like that, the only way to get away from that is to put something untrue. So because the Pentagon has to approve all these books, right?
Yeah,
Even
Well-
if you're not just Louis Elizondo, but anyone who worked in government, if they write a book, it has to go.
Yeah,
get
through the CIA
approved.
or through the Pentagon, and I mean, I think Jim Simivan is really interesting to listen to, because yes, he's, you know, former CIA, but he's an experiencer, and what he went through with his wife, it was really traumatic.
Who's
And
Simivan? How come I don't know him? Is he
Jim Simivan, he's one of the TTSA guys, but
Oh, really? Is he Asian?
yeah, you should listen to his talks, because he outright says they're jinn. He doesn't even
Wow.
he doesn't even like give a shit anymore, I think, because of what he went through, him and his wife. And he really he was hesitant to say it, but he's pointed enough at it now. And then he's just like, you can find some of his podcasts where he basically just says, yeah, he understands them to be, for lack of a better word, jinn.
Right. So another species that's in pretty much another dimension that's on this earth with us.
Yeah.
Speaking of triangles, did you guys? Topher,
I sent that to you.
Yeah. So this is a stabilized video. It's in the UK of a black triangle.
Yeah, this one's crazy.
And it's just sitting there, and it's the typical. It's got the 3 lights, right? It's got the red light in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people have read about or have tried to leak the TR3B that it's actually this thing in the middle here is liquid mercury, which is heated up using nuclear technology or something within, which then lifts the craft, something like that. But crazy, I was just sitting there, right?
Yeah, it's so ominous.
And this is exactly, I believe, what's described in Ross Coulthard's book about the first story in it, I think, happens in Australia.
Yeah.
Near that, I forget what it's called, the base that's this essentially an American base that relays the nuclear codes in Australia. And the woman has this experience of this craft, and it's if I remember correctly, it's described exactly like this.
So bizarre, huh? And the guy's really scared.
Yeah, you can. That's why I had to be stabilized. He's shaking all over the place. Poor guy. I mean, if you saw that in your back window, I'd be freaked out if that was me.
Yeah, you always hear that the triangular ones are. Everyone seems to get this really strong sense of like ominous sense.
Yeah.
Whereas the orbs, people seem to feel quite benevolent with the lights, but the triangle, everyone always says it feels really ominous. Mm-hmm. But I mean, yeah, if you saw that in the sky, I mean, the size of it, look at the size of it. It's a building.
But seems human to me for some reason.
You think
really
so?
Advanced, just really advanced. Well, I don't know why the triangle ones seem human to me. I guess, well, maybe not, because the whole Belgium, I mean, it's the exact same one. If you look at the pictures from the Belgium UFOs in the 90s, it's the exact same thing. And I guess, yeah, the US was going to shoot them down too, right? When that happened.
We only shoot balloons down.
Right. If it's a UFO, then yeah, we can't find them too.
Yeah.
UFOs. So I don't know if you guys have seen this, but now the Pentagon proposes bold move. Ooh, what's this?
Oh, they care about our privacy? That can't be right.
Pentagon proposes bold move to cut red tape in the development of breakthrough technologies. So it looks like they're trying to get ahead of them doing illegal things for the past 80 years. The Department of Defense is requesting new authorities that would allow the Pentagon to initiate the development of new breakthrough technologies without explicit pre-approval from Congress. So I think they're just trying to, they know that we're probing. Everyone's probing. People in the Senate are. Whistleblowers are coming out. So what they've been doing is unconstitutional and illegal. So I think what they're trying to do is just trying to make it legal before they get in trouble.
Yeah, that tracks.
I mean, I think it's interesting. They're talking about like because of China, and if you listen to some of the theories or some of the anonymous whistleblowers, apparently you have the gifting fields in the US, but you also have Russia and China that have been given these technologies. Yeah. And one of the theories is it's to see which one of the three superpowers is going to win in the end. So
Oh boy.
that's slightly terrifying.
It is. It is, yes. I mean, the U.S., we have our problems, but at least we're not China or Russia. We have a system that that's done its best in keeping tyranny away from the population. And COVID was a great example of that. This could have been a hellhole like Canada and Australia, but because we have systems in place, and you'll say the checks and balances that kept it. It was bad, right? But it wasn't as bad. So I would still like whoever wins this to be someone like the United States and not Russia and China. China scares me to death, especially with the social credit score. That stuff really, really frightens me.
Yep.
So I mean, that's always interesting. Our government is trying to get ahead of it. I don't know, Kay, if you saw Dolan's work on it was a video he did 3 times that the project almost got ousted, right? And he goes and he uses Jack Vallet's books, he uses other books, stuff that he's gotten, Admiral Wilson. But there was one he talked about where the special access program guys caught or found the program, and they're like, what's going on here? And then they weren't supposed to be found out, and they said fine. They invited these special access program officers. There's some oversight committee, invited them in, gave them a tour, told them about the project, but then they never wanted this to ever happen again. And there's been an agreement in place between the DoD and these private contractors to basically be a gatekeeper for this information. And that's why we'll never see the government, at least in its form right now, come out officially and say something or what's going on. It's really frustrating, but it also means that we have to be very careful what comes out of government. So
yeah.
Did you see that video?
No, not recently. No, if that's a recent one, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's a recent one.
Yeah.
This story. This is.
Oh my god, I'm so sick of this story.
Oh god.
Well, our listeners probably haven't listened to it yet. I don't know. Okay, if you've been following.
I haven't seen this one, but yeah, I know about the James Fox and the I know him talking about it on Rogan.
Yeah, so this is the first video that came out.
Person that was on our podcast.
You don't remember?
Yeah,
James
of course
Fox?
I remember fucking James Fox, bro. It was a joke, but sometimes it was so long ago.
It was long. It was
300
long,
episodes. Brings James Fox on his show to talk about alien evidence, so on and so forth. And James Fox shares a previously unheard story about you going to purchase this existing footage of aliens landing on the Earth for $100,000. What was the guy's name that wouldn't sell it to you?
Chuck Clark,
who has been gatekeeping this footage like a freaking OnlyFans girl, would not sell you the footage for a rack of hundreds, right? So you said, hey man, do you mind just showing it to me? And while he showed it to you, you recorded it on a secret fucking camera.
What do you want from me, bro? I'm a sneaky.
Oh, you stole the footage.
I'm a sneaky little fuck.
Oh, that's sick. Damn.
Yeah.
I thought you just bought it like the Pokemon cards.
No, I tried it. I offered him $100,000 for this tape after I had seen it.
Was it worth it? Would it be worth $100,000?
Let me tell you this: he should have fucking taken the money because I got the footage anyway.
No, okay.
And I'll tell you why I did that, because it's a little twisted. It's a little twisted of me to put on a small button camera.
Well, okay, so he goes through that. I want to get through that, but he basically says that
This is Logan Paul, by the way, for those listening.
Oh yes, that's Logan Paul. And this is apparently a clip of that
Screenshot.
A screenshot of it, and this is actually an interview with Chuck Clark. The author interviews him. He goes, "You've had this video for 25 years now, is that right?" Or about that. It's been right around almost 25 years. He got it in 94, 95. Did you get it directly from whoever filmed it? And Clark says, no, it was an acquaintance of the person that gave me the copy. Is there a reason why you've declined to publish it or put it out there? I gave my word to the person that gave it to me that I wouldn't disseminate it. And he was in the media out of Hollywood, Burbank, basically. And he said what the major network was. And the person passed. So he goes, I'm assuming that person is still around. He goes, no, he passed. So I mean, why wouldn't he erase? Why wouldn't he disseminate it then if the guy's passed already. So there's that, and then someone shared a video of that picture also. So it's not too.
So I'm
It's not. I hope that's not it.
yeah.
Because that's not
That's
very.
nothing.
No, it's nothing. But I guess if you put it in the context of it being over the car and light getting over the car, and might be more convincing that way. I'm not sure, but this is what it is.
So Logan Paul secretly recorded this video, and has he released it?
Not yet. No, he's
So,
waiting
so,
the right
he's
moment.
so he's doing the same thing that Chuck Clark did.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
have the video, but I don't know. Is he releasing a book anytime soon?
The
Like, what's going on here?
Chuck Clark
thing
or
is,
No, Logan Paul.
probably.
at this point, I feel like regardless of what video is released, people are not going to buy it.
No.
Like people aren't just, you could release anything. You could release any photo, any video nowadays, and people, half the people will believe it and half the people won't. People say it's CG or, so I just don't know if video evidence really, it's not going to change people's minds who don't want to believe.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, look at the Tic Tac video from
Yeah.
I mean, that was a big deal, and no one really outside of UFO circles cared. I remember talking to my parents about it, and they were just like, "Huh, neat," And I'm like, how are you not more excited about this?
The New York Times was talking about it.
Yeah.
So they tried, and you're right, and people didn't care, and maybe that's why they're retracting again, because Arrow and Fitzpatrick was his name. I mean, him just coming out blatantly saying, "Oh, we have no evidence."
Oh yeah. I mean, I think he's playing word games, to be honest. I think he's playing semantic games.
Yeah.
But the problem is when he plays those games, people then get to turn around and say, "Oh, you see, there's nothing," because he says there's no evidence of extraterrestrial. But I think he's playing a word game there. I think he's saying that because, well, there isn't evidence that it's extraterrestrial. It's coming from our oceans, or it's coming from here,
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, Adam, that's actually exactly what you had said. I think it was last week when we were talking about the maybe a week before when we were talking about his little talk there.
Right, there he is right there. I mean, yeah, so it could be semantics. Okay, fine. It's not aliens. Okay, but then he says it's not also the technology is nothing. What do you say? Nothing weird or?
Yeah, he says it doesn't defy the laws of physics. But then again, it's like, okay, that could be semantics too, because maybe it doesn't defy the laws of physics because the laws of physics are expansive. And so I just don't know. I think he's playing word games. So he's technically not lying, but I don't know.
This guy, there's a retired Navy chief blasts U.S. government over UFOs and says he knows, quote, where the bodies are buried, close quote, on alien sightings. And he apparently told Fox News Digital, I'm going to be honest with you. I'd love to tell everything in detail, but I'm not willing to go to jail. Now, I thought there's laws for these whistleblowers. He explained, I'm constrained because of security agreements. So they need a way for submissions to be made. And then they talk about Arrow. And I'm sure this guy, the retired Navy chief, said he and his fellow military service members saw a similar orb as the UFO shown in the video from an airborne platform in Afghanistan in the early 2000s. There's quite a bit of gray area here because the customer we were working for at the time retained all collected materials. See, so it's all these contractors, and FOIA will never get that information out of these contractors. He goes, but I know where the bodies are buried, not necessarily where the digital data is, though. I can point them in the right direction.
I find this orb really interesting because I saw a metallic orb in 2008. And that was before, like, I recall anyone talking about orbs or anything like because usually the craft that people see are saucer shaped or whatever. But I saw a metallic orb in 2008, and so when this video came out, I was like, "Oh
my god!" So wait, in 2008, where was that one? Did you talk about that?
This is really weird because I saw it above CERN.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, like, I have no idea if it has anything to do with CERN. But yeah, in the it was daytime as well. It was a daytime sighting above CERN in 2008, and it was just this big metal sphere orb.
It was interesting
And-
probably what's going on there.
Now, was it floating
It was
menacingly?
suspended. It was really strange.
Wow.
And yeah, I just
How long did it last? Was it just
the
for
problem is I was in a car and we were driving,
Oh.
but so I was on the way to work, so I didn't have time to stop. But unfortunately, but again, it's like one of those weird things where you don't think to stop when you see a metal orb in the sky, but
Yeah.
it's in hindsight you go, that was really weird. But I mean, it was suspended, and I just remember it being this dull metallic kind of color.
Yeah, Topher, you told me about an experience you had with a friend where you guys were blatantly just looking at it,
Mhm.
and then you didn't talk about it the entire night after that.
No, it's just one of those things. And yeah, again, it's super common in these kind of sightings. Yeah. Oh, wow, look at that. That is crazy. All right, well, let's go, do whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
happens a lot. Actually, my roommate, I've told the story on the podcast before. Recently, she went to a music festival, and she and her sister had the same thing where they saw a giant floating thing in the sky, and it was the exact same thing where they were looking at it. Ha ha ha! Oh, that's so cool! And then the next morning, they're like, "What the hell were we thinking? We didn't take pictures. We weren't like, it was just like a cool thing to see, and then you don't think about it until later." So, I mean, it happens pretty frequently.
So strange.
But
Now this is a
really-
great one from 4chan. Yeah.
Really quick, I just want to say those metal orbs, they were called Foo Fighters a long time ago. I think if it's the same thing, but I remember, was it the Enola Gay? I mean, the guys who dropped the nukes in Japan were seeing them as they were flying the bombs over. So they've been around for a while.
I mean, I always thought those were balls of light, but yeah, I know about the Foo Fighters. I mean, it
If
would be interesting to know if these metal orbs can emit light, because then
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking about military UFOs, this guy.
This is the story.
Yeah, I don't know if you've read this. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I saw it on Reddit.
It's crazy, huh? So, I mean, we're not going to read the whole thing here for our listeners.
It's long. The world's most truthful website, 4chan.
Yeah.
But
I
it
know
is
everyone is anonymous. Literally, anonymous.
If nothing else, it's a very cool read.
It is.
But yeah, you're never supposed to trust stuff you read on 4chan. That being said, they have leaked stuff that's been true before in various fields. So
yeah,
who knows if this is real or not.
This guy comes in and goes, I have intimate knowledge of what the U.S. currently knows about UFOs minus the last 2 years. UFOs are primarily unmanned drones. UFOs are built to spec each time they're deployed. UFOs are created by mobile construction facility that hides in the ocean. Construction facility destroys anything that comes close to it and will disappear for days when approached aggressively. U.S. believes the facility has been active on Earth for at least 100 years or much longer. And he goes in, people ask him questions, and he pretty much answers every single question. Well,
yeah.
a lot of the questions. He does a good job doing that. And he sticks to his narrative, so there's I didn't see any contradictions there. He's probably a good psyop and very well trained.
Yeah.
Or it's true.
Well, the thing that stuck out to me, and this covers a big question about UFOs in particular, is why they're always different. When people see UFOs, it's they're built for each special mission they're going out to do, supposedly, according to this guy, which is why every UFO we see is a little bit different.
And that explanation made so much sense, because why are they so different? Like we have model cars and they're all the same, but then how come each UFO is so different? I mean, except for the black triangles, probably because it's human.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just love how he goes in there and saying, and he basically says it's AI, these manufacturing facilities in the ocean. It's AI that makes these things, and then launches them for every mission. And then when they crash, he says they make mistakes just like we make mistakes, and when they crash, we try. Oh, it's a loss for them. They don't care, but it's not like they don't care, but they don't try to get back the bodies or the vehicle. They just ignore it and they let us take it.
I think one of the, if it was his point or someone else brought it up, that the phenomena kind of treats us like we're in a zoo and they're the zookeepers.
Yes, that's right. They only show up when war comes on or nukes or something like that.
Yeah, which is an interesting concept. you know, kind of goes into the good versus bad conversation we had earlier.
And Tom Long talks about that too a lot, where he thinks nukes also seep into their dimension or their world, especially if they're sharing this planet with us. And that's why they come up and show up and say, stop it. You know, you're messing with us too, with these crazy tests you're doing.
But I'm assuming you're going to post a link to this.
Yes.
Okay, good. I encourage anyone who's listening right now to, if you can understand how 4chan works, it is a little bit difficult if you've never used or seen the website. Basically, because you can't track who's talking really.
Right.
But you just scroll and read it. It's a very interesting read, if nothing else. Really good piece of fiction, or it's the absolute truth. Or it's mixed. It's mixed to throw us off, but kind of give us hints to what's happening. Who knows?
It kind of reminded me of John Teeter when he
when he time traveler.
Yeah, it was the same kind of thing where people were asking questions, the way he was answering, and he answered every single one. Like, you know,
he was more of a dick about it, though.
Was he? Oh yeah,
he was like, just so you guys know, nobody likes your time. You're all so selfish. Yeah.
Well,
his
right.
story's super interesting, but yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely, listeners, go. We'll place the link in there. Go read everything that he answers. Super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
NASA is now. They're going to do a press conference end of the month about their findings. What do you guys think they're going to say?
It's going to be interesting.
Never a straight answer.
Never a straight answer, exactly.
I don't think we'll get anything from NASA. I think they'll throw some tidbits, but the tidbits will be like, well, we don't really understand what happened here, and that'll be the extent of what they're really going to quote unquote tell us.
Too bad, you know, we all think that, right? Watch them surprise us. But I also, like you guys, think they're going to say there's no evidence that we've ever been visited. But could be playing semantics there too, right? Someone should just throw it. Okay, fine. They're not from another planet. But do we have something else here with us?
I want someone to ask about non-human intelligence. Use that terminology and see what they say.
Exactly. So that'll be May 31st. We'll see.
This is an oldie.
This is an oldie. This is the 2006 Chicago O'Hare UFO sighting. I always thought this one was fascinating. It was over a 2 or 3 day period. I mean, there was so much news coverage of it. Also, it shut down the airport. You know, Chicago O'Hare is a very busy airport.
But they have a bunch of weird stuff. Aren't they the one that isn't that the airport that has a bunch of Mothman sightings, like especially recently?
Is it really?
Yeah, they have a lot of weird stuff that happens at that airport. I love Mothman.
Yeah, Mothman is really cool. This guy Joe Abig, I'm a United pilot, and I was at O'Hare a couple days later, and everyone was still talking about it. The employees I talked to about the sighting accept it as real. But yeah, I mean, it was in the news. We have audio of the event, of pilots talking, of the tower talking. I mean, it happened, you know. The craft appeared to be hovering right below the ceiling of the cloud cover, about 700 or 800 feet. The cloud ceiling that day was 1,900 feet. The top of the craft was clearly outlined as a very dark gray material, but the bottom and the edges of the craft were hazy, like when you see the mirage, like the surface of the road on a hot day. And then they have all these quotes. I was working at American Airlines as a ramp service clerk at O'Hare when that thing came. I saw it, and only one other coworker saw it as well, and nobody believed me, even after other airline workers said they saw it too. Until I heard other people saw it, everyone had me convinced I was crazy.
That's so sad. I hate we're finally starting to accept UAPs and just, you know, modern culture, but 2006 it was still, you know, if you claim to see UFOs, you were ostracized.
Yeah. What's this? This is
airport. Several pilots apparently and United Airlines workers at Chicago's O'Hare swear they saw one, a UFO. They say it hovered over a terminal without lights before shooting straight up right through the clouds last fall. The FAA still is investigating, but federal officials believe it was just some strange weather phenomenon.
Oh, please. Strange weather. Everyone, all of you are hallucinating. Every single one of you.
Yeah, jeez.
And that's why I think is a mix of this, right? Where it's something that's here. I don't know if you've read any Stringfield's book, where he's been they've been leaking, the government or military have been leaking to him since, I don't know, the 60s or something. And I have a book where he compiled everything in there. So I think there's nuts and bolts. It's a mix, right? It's something that's here. It's also something interdimensional, but there is a nuts and bolts extraterrestrial, which does sometimes come here. And those are the ones that get caught, like here in the airport, or, just in stupid areas like Arizona, or, if they actually get through our defense systems without knocking them out. Those, I feel very alien to me, because imagine if you're a species that's just entering a new planet, you're not going to know where you're ending up, what you're doing. But yeah, that's just my opinion.
So do either one of you guys believe in the theory that the actual like craft is a living being, living, quote unquote? Yeah. Well, I mean, it would kind of make sense if they want to check out airplanes, right? If the craft is a living thing, right? Maybe it wants to see the equivalent, not
other living things,
not understanding that our planes aren't living.
I mean, I think that's really interesting in the sense that, again, I think it's this consciousness thing. So is it like, if we keep going with the evolution of our technology, and we can soon merge, with, if we can merge with technology, is the technology then sentient? And then is this what's happening with the craft? What I think is really interesting is, those old, those old NASA videos. The tether. You remember the tether incident?
Yeah.
The things that go to investigate it in the video, they're pulsing. They look like they're breathing. And so that's what I always wondered about that, because they definitely look alive. But then it's like, what does that mean?
This is the problem. There's no answers. It's all questions. It's such a, just.
But
just
a part of it, I think, is because we can't even define consciousness.
Right.
No, we can't. I mean, all this money going into brain technology. I mean, this mind reading technology has arrived. An AI powered brain decoder can now read your thoughts with surprising accuracy.
Oh, God.
Fantastic.
But I've done a lot of research in this because it really bothered me. And we still can't write to the brain. And the only way we can read from the brain is if you train the AI or the technology on it. So it'll tell you, all right, now think of doing this. And then you think of that. And then it reads, you're like, okay, that's when this person thinks that, right? So you still have to train it in your process. But when it comes to like deep thoughts, I don't know. I mean, I'm not too convinced, and especially the writing technology. I didn't know that. So we still cannot write to the brain. There's no permission or something. But I've read a lot of the journals. That makes it pretty much impossible. So, yes, it can read what we train it to read. So what about this new one, though? This came out the other day. Here in the past, researchers have shown that they can decode unspoken language by implanting electrodes in the brain and then using an algorithm that reads the brain's activity and translates it into text on a computer screen. But that approach is very invasive, requiring surgery. It appealed only to a subset of patients like those with paralysis, for whom the benefits were worth the cost. So researchers also developed techniques that didn't involve surgical implants. They were good enough to decode basic brain states like fatigue or very short phases, but not much more. Now we've got a non-invasive brain-computer interface that can decode continuous language from the brain, so somebody else can read the general gist of what you're thinking, even if we haven't uttered a single word. How is that possible? It comes down to the marriage of two technologies: fMRI, so MRI scans which measure blood flow to different areas of the brain, and large AI language models similar to now infamous ChatGPT. So AI now is getting into our brains. So I mean, it's changing so fast, and it's
singularity is coming right around the corner. It feels like.
Was it 2029?
Sure, if we keep moving this route, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, they're talking about Musk Neuralink and Mark Zuckerberg that are working on PCIs that could pick up thoughts directly from your neurons and translate them into words in real time. Wow. No, thank you, man. I don't want that.
the example they use, like people, you know, who are paralyzed. I mean, it would be a great benefit if you're able to communicate effectively with other people. You know, that'd be a huge boon to your life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is, to me, it does seem like a slippery slope a little bit.
And they're going to use it for business. I mean, they talk about that in here. They say neuromarketing, where the AI will read your mind. I guess it's like Minority Report. Remember when he's just walking through and it shows him these personalized ads? So it might be the same thing where it reads your brain, like, you know, what I mean, it kind of does that anyway, right? We have conversations about things, and then we see those ads online.
Oh yeah, all the time. It's terrifying.
Yeah, it is. But now, if it's really reading your brain, not just listening to what you're saying, but reading, you know, your thoughts, and then gives you ads based on that.
Directly into your brain.
Oh
You
man,
can't wait.
Can't wait. Well, we are over our hour, Topher, and those are all the subjects we have for this week.
Yeah, it was great stuff.
Fun. Okay, this was awesome.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun, Kay.
Oh, there's one thing I wanted to bring up because I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but did you see that today they're going to attempt to? It's just a thought experiment to see whether or not, if this is a consciousness thing, if masses of people think about a mothership, can we make one appear?
Ooh,
did you see that?
No,
I did not see that, but I'm going to look into that.
So today was chosen because it's Mother's Day. So if you go on Reddit, you'll see people talking about it at 4 p.m. Arizona time.
Arizona time. Okay.
Yeah, because the idea was to try and make a mothership appear above Arizona.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so that's today. So I'm just interested to see what's going to happen, because if thousands of people do essentially a CE5, picture a mothership appearing over Arizona, what's
so they wanted to? Why Arizona?
Sorry, Phoenix. Yeah.
So Phoenix again, basically.
Yeah, basically because of the Phoenix lights.
Yeah.
To try, so they picked Arizona. They picked Phoenix.
And today.
And they picked today because it's Mother's Day. So mothership.
All right.
Yeah, Mothership. At 4 p.m. Arizona. Arizona is Pacific time, right, Topher?
You're asking the wrong guy.
I think it is because it's Southwest.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, that's really cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna have to do some meditating here and picture that in my head.
Yeah, speaking of listeners, we were supposed to do our CE5 event last night, but it got overcast and foggy, and we did not want to hike out to that cliff in that weather.
The phenomena struck out back at us. We had planned this for a very long time. We've had it on the calendar for months.
Yeah.
And both Adam and I had stomach issues last night, and I was into this morning, in addition to all the fog. So, yeah.
Isn't that weird? Yeah, we got physically sick, and the weather physically changed.
Yeah.
So, but we have a plan for next week, so we're gonna record that and then let our listeners know what happened. Basically,
yeah. And if you don't hear from us ever again, we're no longer on the planet.
And it's it's encouraging what Kay went through. I mean, she did a CA5 and it worked out for her. So I'm really interested to see what the GoPro picks up.
Yeah,
do something similar.
Real quick, I wanted to ask both you guys: have either one of you read The Vertical Plane?
No. Is that the series?
No. It's so quick rundown. This couple in Dawdleston in the UK were getting messages on a computer. This happened in the late 80s, so there's no internet really. They were borrowing this computer from the school where Ken, the guy, taught, and they were getting messages from the 1500s, and they were trying to figure out who was messing with them, and they couldn't. Very fascinating book. There's documentaries about it, the podcast about it. But we were talking about how early in the show we were talking about time, past, present, future, all happening at once, and that's basically the conclusion, kind of, that they came to. But it's a very, very, very cool book. Highly recommend it.
Okay, I'll look that up.
They were getting messages in the 1500s.
They were getting messages from the 1500s. They lived in the 1980s.
On the computer.
Yeah,
that's bizarre.
And so they're talking to this guy and trying to figure out who he is. And, the language is so different. So they have to bring in a person who understands, English from the 1500s. It's really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
So weird, man. So weird.
That's really interesting because it's kind of like, is that what magicians of the past or the scryers. Is that what they were tapping into? Were they tapping
Right.
into the future?
Right. It's very fascinating. It's a good book. It's well written. It's got they've got pictures of the messages they got. Yeah, and
Really?
they bring in I can't remember the name. It's a psychological group that like it tries to prove the existence of ghosts and stuff like that. They had poltergeist activity at their house. It's really it's a fascinating book. I'm almost done with it.
Very cool. Yeah, I'll look into it. Vertical plane.
Yep.
Nice. All right. I guess that's all we have for today.
Yeah, Kay, do you want to plug a book to sell?
No, I'm good. Thank you. Maybe next time.
All right.
Well, coming.
Thank you so much for being our first guest on the show. We had a great time with you.
Thank
We
you.
definitely did. We'll probably invite you back on if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
You have great experience. You brought in great perspectives to the stories. Also, books that we haven't read and stories we don't know about. So I think that was great. And it was nice getting to know your experiences. And are you gonna do another CA5?
Yeah, I think I will. I'll try it again. The thing is, I want to do it away from my house because there's a lot of light pollution in the area. So I kind of want to go further out into the countryside and try it there.
All right. Well, based on what ours is going to be, maybe we'll go out there too because it's a really cool spot. Really cool spot overlooking the Pacific, and we all know there's some base there.
It's got to be something. Everyone's seeing stuff over there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening to the Uncovering Anomalies podcast. That's Adam. I'm Topher. Again, thank you, Kay, for joining us. You can find us at UAP the podcast on Twitter. You can find me at Topher et al. And any last thoughts, you guys?
No, just give us some feedback if on the show if you guys are liking it or not. Share it with everyone that you know. Yeah, that's all from my end.